transformation, transformation, transformation. We've heard the T word a lot today, haven't we? And we've definitely heard it a lot over the last year or so. And as we know, to achieve meaningful transformation, it requires the collective power of everyone, from employees to the supply chain, to the board, to investors, to customers. So today we're going to be exploring how we engage at every level to drive pace and to drive profitable change. Who am I? I'm Joss Ford, and I'll be moderating over the next hour and a half. It's my third time at Change now, and I run a communications agency called Enviral, and we're here to save the world from boring sustainability stories. As we know, engaging communications and storytelling is at the heart of transformation. But let's be honest, as an industry, we love a bit of jargon. And at Enviral, we think that we've got an epidemic of global yawning, because everything's a bit of a snooze fest sometimes. So hopefully we can talk about the role of creativity, and yeah, hopefully we can look at strategies to move forward quickly together. So first of all, we've got some brilliant people on our first panel. We've got Nancy, the CSO of Estee Lauder. We've got Corinne, the Chief Impact Officer at EDF. And we've got John, the Global Head of ESG and UK ESG Vice Chairman at KPMG. So please welcome to the stage. Hi, everyone. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi, hi.
Can you hear us in the back? Wave your hand if you can hear us in the back. All right,
yeah.
Now we're doing well.
We love it. So let's do a quick round of introductions, shall we? What do you do? And I'm interested, one thing that you've been inspired by from Change Now so far today.
So I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Estee Lauder Companies. We're a big branded house of 25 great brands, and I oversee all of our environmental work, our social impact work, and our governance work, which means reporting. And one thing I'm very excited about is the people in the back can hear us. But more than that, the incredible sort of light and energy we're getting in this beautiful location, and the energy of the entrepreneurs in the backgrounds. For big companies like us, we need more entrepreneurism. So very excited to be here. Thanks, Josh.
Love it, Nancy. John, over to you.
Hi all. So Nancy's done the whole thing of can you hear in the back, because it's really noisy, right? But anyway, hi. I'm John McAlalisi. I'm a partner at KPMG, one of the vice chairman KPMG in the UK, but I'm also global head of ESG. What does that mean? We operate in about 143 countries. We've got 300,000 team members. I am responsible for all of the client delivery work that we do. We do about 1 million audits or so a year. So all of the ESG related assurance work. We've got nature people, climate people, you name it. So any issues there, you come and see me. I'm only joking. Anyway, that's what I'm responsible for. What am I excited about? Really just the breadth and the depth of the entrepreneurs here. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I had a quick walk around beforehand, you know, from optimizing batteries to reducing waste, you name it, everything here. So I love the energy, and I'm pleased also that you can hear us at the back.
Karine, over to you.
Hi, I'm Karine. I'm the Chief Impact Officer of EDF. EDF is the electricity company in France. One thing I'm very excited is that I met Theo. Here is Theo. And do you know who is Theo? So he's volunteering as a state manager, but he's one of EDF employees who took holidays to volunteer here during the 3 days. So well
Let's
done,
get a round of applause.
That's
Love
engagement for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I love it. Well,
And without him, we wouldn't be here, right?
Exactly,
Or we might have tripped on the way up.
So guys, I'd like to get some industry perspectives from you when it comes to transformation. I think from both the progress and the challenges lens, changing organizations and sectors throughout your whole supply chains internally must be super, super hard. 3 different types of organizations, very different approaches. Perhaps you can give us some examples of successful transformation initiatives that have progressed well and why they've progressed well. And I'm also interested to hear about the challenges. We know that this isn't easy. Let's talk about the elephants in the room, the roadblocks. And specifically, I'm interested in how we make those transformation initiatives happen in the first place. So, John, maybe we'll start with you, and what you're seeing and hearing from your clients at KPMG.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and hoping that you can all still hear me. It's very loud. I'm going to go with an example, okay? I'm going to work through this relatively quickly, but I think this example is really foundational to what we should all be doing, okay? In this case, a client, it's a mid-cap, it's a mid-sized business. It's based out of India. It's in the retail area. We did a whole raft of initiatives, many initiatives that I'm sure that you guys will be doing already, low-hanging fruit around renewable energy, PPAs, all of that good stuff, okay? But we also went to logistics optimization. We looked at their network hub, and it was just to optimize that. Did something really cool with their packaging, so their retail. So we've gone from plastic to plant-based. We measured it. We knew that it was lighter. We made the packaging smaller, and then we optimized and increased the numbers of packets that they can put in each carton. Why is that important? What it meant was when you put them into the trucks, they were lighter, they used less fuel. When you added up all of these initiatives that I just went through, overall we got to an 8% emissions reduction. Now here's the clever thing, 8% emissions, we connected that to EBITDA. So that's profit. We've got 8% emissions reductions, 10% improvements in profits, and we're able to show that. Now this business, their profit, their EBITDA was about 50 million. If you get a 10% improvement on 15 million, how much is that? Everybody can do maths, right? It's 5 million, right? 5 million. Now this business was up for a transaction to be sold. If you got a 5 million improvement, the valuation was 5 times EBITDA. We just added 25 million of value through sustainability, okay? This is a real life worked example, and this is a good example of where you're leaning into sustainability, you're leaning into transformation, but you're doing it in a way that is driving business performance and business results.
So you're really seeing the business case for it. I love it. And what challenges are you seeing? What are the things that we're not talking about?
Look, challenges, how long have we got? An hour? 2 hours? No, I'm only joking. Challenges are many right now. Immediacy bias is a challenge. 2021, if you were an investor call, all investor calls, they talked about ESG. If they didn't, what's your problem? Now, last year, they're all talking about AI. They move on to the next thing or next thing. So, you know, focusing on the long term, that's one. We were talking about this, I'm seated between two clients here, so I have to be careful about
we're hoping to get a discount by the end of the day.
Yeah, I have to be careful about what I say. But from a regulatory environment, from a regulatory landscape, it's really confusing, right? What are you complying with? What do you need to do? And clearly there are cost and performance pressures. And that's the reason why we surveyed a bunch of clients around the world just 2 weeks ago. And one of the key areas that they were struggling with was the business case for the work that they were doing. That's fundamentally in this. So that's why I gave that example. So that's the key challenge in the context of the confusion, the immediacy bias, the lack of clarity around reporting. If you have a robust business case, that's how you punch through those challenges.
Yeah, so stay stuck on one path and let's try and think about long-term thinking, not short-term thinking. Love it. Nancy, every time we've met, you've been spinning 10 different amazing plates all at once. Tell us, how's things at Estee Lauder?
Well, you know, in terms of challenges, one of the things that we're all seeing is obviously the macroeconomic headwinds, right? So we've had many, many years of growth in the world, and as a result, it's been easier for companies to pay for sustainable practices. What we've really been focusing on now are what we call double wins. So we were, for instance, very early investors to wind energy. And just to give you an example, we've invested in windmills in Oklahoma where the wind comes sweeping down the plain very early in, and we both locked in the green energy and we basically created climate security. And over the period of time, not only are we carbon neutral over scopes 1 and 2, but we've made $5 million by selling energy back into the grid. I think one of the big challenges we have together is relevancy. How do we talk about this work in a way where A, you save money for the business, but in addition, you know, the bottom line is that energy is scarce. We have energy risk and energy scarcity. So I think, to your earlier point, as we move forward together, we need to come up with a new languaging around the importance of this for the business and get rid of this notion that sustainability is expensive and that you have to have either sustainable packaging or great-looking packaging. If you go out there, there's sustainable and great-looking packaging, and I think we have to get rid of that trade-off. And then just lastly, on investors, I actually do about 35 investor calls a year with governance teams.
Good luck.
Generally, I actually like investors, but generally what we see is that the investors are very aware that if you can manage to sustainability goals and attain them, then you are well managed. And I think we have to continue to integrate into the mainstream business.
Thinking about what are your double wins, I think that's a really great
double
thing.
win is the windmills, where the wind comes sweeping down the plane. So we have climate neutrality, and we've locked in energy. For some reason, the larger political dynamic around energy is very skewed, honestly. The reality is we don't have enough energy in the world. Also, another example, I was just out in Oevel in Belgium visiting a facility. Bringing supply chains closer together saves money and saves carbon. And so we have to talk, I think, about our work in the language of the business, and we have to integrate it into the business.
Really good takeaways, thank you. So Corinne, EDF must have huge, complex transformation initiatives. What's been working, what's not been working at EDF?
Well, what's working, I think, is that, as Nancy said, we realize energy truly matters, right? We are the largest producer of electricity in the world without direct CO2 emissions. So it's a huge responsibility for us to continue to be there for the clients. But the question is, what use do we do of this electricity, right? How do you prioritize when you are in a scarce environment? Is it the hospital? Is it the AI? I mean, exactly as you say. So this is the political question that comes to a lot of the energy companies today. And it's very difficult, I think, to handle, because who are we to judge the use of electricity, right? But when you have to fight for it, you will have to prioritize how to use the energy. So I think this is what has been going on for us. The other thing which is very difficult is the time it takes to actually deploy capital in the energy system. So it's not because AI is growing super fast that there will be the decarbonized electricity in front of the demand, right? And so how do you articulate the short term and the long term? And I think this is something also that means that we also need to include some form of sufficiency. It's not just additionality. It's how do we become more sober in the use we do of energy as well, right? And I think this is a very big change of paradigm when your business model has been about selling electrons, and you have actually to think about, the circularity and the prioritization. So I think this is really what is at stake. But the good news is that everybody knows that energy is critical if we want to reach the net zero. So I think all the governments today have made it a priority to be independent, to be sovereign, to be net zero, and we are part of the solution.
I love that. What are the things, apart from the normalization of renewable energy, which has happened over the last few years, are you really excited by? Is there any innovation or tech within EDF that's helping that transformation journey?
I think the very exciting thing is moving from a pure climate perspective to a planetary boundaries perspective. So that means combining nature and climate, biodiversity, social. I think we always look at things in silo, and we can do very bad things for biodiversity when we do good for climate. And I think this is a very big change also in paradigm, but I think it brings a lot of benefits. When you do something good for nature, usually you see it more in a short term compared to climate, it's more visible, so you get people more empowered locally, and if you do good things for biodiversity, you can combine it with climate as well. So how to make it concrete. It can be very low-tech solution. It doesn't have to be high-tech, right? But it has to be local, in my view, for people to really get on board.
And tell me, your employees and your board, how do you get them on board with that deep level of mindset of progress?
I think we tried to go into every gap within the organization. So for sure, you have to start with the board, the executive committee. But I think when it comes to the employees, we tried two different routes. One is to use different medium. For example, we use arts. We have a foundation at EDF. We have art exhibition. And we use contemporary arts, for example, to talk about social and environmental issues, like fake news, like sufficiency, like how to think about the future. We use dance. We use different means. And that's another way to touch people, right? Instead of the IPCC reports, which, you know, by the way, not everybody knows or not everybody reads, right? I think it's 25% the people who knows what IPCC stands for in France. So you need to go with different medium to touch people. The other ways is to identify executives that you can transform from a personal standpoint. So we took part in an initiative in France called the Climate Convention for Corporates. It was an imitation of the Climate Convention for Citizens, which happened after the Yellow Vest, you know, when we had this big crisis in France because of the higher carbon tax. And the idea is to bring together 150 executives during 8 months, and you get them to realize what is really happening, not just climate, the whole planetary boundaries, and they have to commit to a regenerative roadmap. 16 executives of EDF took part in that.
Brilliant.
And they have themselves a lot of employees in their structure, so that's the way they can really change from the inside.
John, how are you getting your clients to really buy into this and engage in transformation?
I'm a bit jealous about this whole dance thing. I think I need to talk about that later on. That sounds amazing. I'll answer twofold. Just really briefly first, what we're doing internally. Many people don't notice that the average age of KP auditor employees around from mid-20s to high 20s, a lot younger than you realise. So there's a real hunger and a real thirst for this topic. So it's recognising that. And what I mean by that, we invest significantly in training, in education, in upskill with Cambridge University, with European Business School, with New York Stern. And the reason why I mention this is we're a regulated business. We have to do training across a number of topics every year, but we see that we've got the highest uptake of non-mandatory training ever. So it's investing in people. So that's really, really important. It's
And how do you spot when you need to deploy training?
Well, because of our the work that we do, there are certain mandatory elements. So as I mentioned, we provide ESG assurance, so that's a regulatory requirement. But also, we continue to monitor and look at how this whole sustainability agenda is evolving. So we train. There's a lot of focus on the community aspect. So when I leave here this weekend, we're speaking to our network, 14,000 practitioners. We're doing a live virtual or hybrid town hall. A lot of focus on the community side, as we mentioned, and communication, storytelling, and so on. Just really briefly, in terms of our clients, one of the most critical things, and it's been alluded to here, is ensuring that you have the prolonged or consistent board level, senior level commitment. The same survey I referenced before showed that 88% of practitioners felt empowered to deliver on the agenda if they had the NED, board level, and exec commitment. So that commitment piece is really important. Then there's what I call the nuts and the bolts. There's the hard yards, 3 things. You embed in the strategy, organizational strategy, in the financial goals. You have to be spending, investing money. When I speak to clients and say, are you serious about this? And they tell me yes, the first thing I do is show me the financials. Because if you're not spending money, I don't believe you. And then there's the whole operational side, goal settings, objectives, and so on. But one of the things, and I'll come back to what Nancy said, is so critically important. When you're really embedding and driving the change, it must go through at a business unit level. So the narrative, the language needs to be clear. If I'm a software developer, what do I need to do? If I'm a product designer, what do I need to do? I'm a management, if I'm leading in procurement, it's actually making it known communications, making it real in terms of making it specific to the individuals and making it stick, right?
Just to build off that, you know, a key part of transformation is listening. And a lot of what we've been doing as a team is doing climate trainings. We just did one this morning with our EMEA leadership team. And we had scoped out for them what their footprint was on scopes 1, 2, and 3. And then we, by lever, identified, you know, indirect procurement, digital services. And then what you really need to do is be a student of the business and listen to what are the decisions that they're making, how do we take our information on carbon and make that, you know, part of the discussion. So for instance, we're redoing our brand.coms, and as part of a climate hackathon, one of the younger folks on the online team said, well, there's something called lazy loading, which basically means that it is a less carbon intensive way to get the information out there. There's no way that our climate team would have known about lazy loading. And so I think the other aspect of sustainability is we really need to remain humble, understand candidly that businesses, particularly in this moment in time, with the geopolitical landscape, with inflation, are under a lot of pressure. We need to have empathy, and we need to listen, and we need to figure out, to John's point, how does value show up? Does value show up in cost savings? Does value show up in less process? One of the things we've been talking about in our company. So it is that double win, I think. The other is our employees, like their employees, can work wherever they want to work. The reality is this matters to employees, and we need to make sustainability everyone's job. And that also means recognizing within their financial rewards, sustainlogistics goals.
So tone from the top, speak in a business language, but also listen. I love that.
And listening.
Yeah. Just, look, change is really hard. Us human beings are really bad at having awkward conversations, which are often needed in transformation. The time is definitely ticking. But I would love to get I'd love to get your perspective on how you have those conversations in a really, really meaningful way when especially the business case for transformation isn't working.
I think you need, first of all, to be integrated, to sit shoulder to shoulder with your commercial colleagues and let them decide. I had a discussion this morning, what if a supplier is great on 5 things but bad on climate? Well, I need to give the respect to that leader that maybe he needs to choose that supplier. But then I meet them where they are and I have a discussion over the next year, you know, gee, could you register with EcoVadis? You know, so I think the question, meeting your business leaders where they are, as opposed to candidly being holier than thou or very absolute. But I have to tell you, the vast majority of employees, when we do trainings, they deeply care about this work. They talk about their families, they talk about their grandchildren, they talk about their children. So I think we also have to give our business leaders credit that they actually do care. They're trying to find out the way, they say the way to yes is how.
Yeah. Okay, so 20 to 30 seconds each. One resource, tip, takeaway for people to take into their roles to engage their workforce in transformation over the next week. Corinne, let's start with you.
Ask forgiveness rather than permission.
I love it.
Oh, wow, that was great. It's the value case. We see it typically through 2 lenses, value protect or value create. So being able to articulate really in a compelling way, what's the value case through those 2 lenses?
Love it.
I would repeat, the way to yes is how, and to work with your business leaders and stay humble.
I mean, that was pretty amazing. 13 seconds over. How great is that? Guys, I could...
Do we get sort of, by the way, can you still hear us in the back?
Yeah.
All right, then we did our job. Thank you for staying.
We could chat for hours and hours, but the train very much is moving. So everybody, if we could give our brilliant panelists a round of applause, that'd be brilliant.
Thank you, Josh. Well done. So we leave, you stay.